And good morning. Can you imagine filing a $1 billion lawsuit? That's the focus of our show today. Welcome to Chat CANNA. Have you heard? $1 billion. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Of course, Wednesday's show for the 1-3, the 13 of January. 2 weeks of the year is already gone. Exciting news on the radio and the TV today. And of course, my phone is just binging all the time with news headlines. We'll have to see where this week is going to take us as we approach next week. And maybe then things will settle down a little bit. But there's always hemp news, and that's what we're here for, to keep you updated and bring you what's going on in the world of hemp. We are about 2 months away from the big shutdown. That, to me, was March 15th of last year, when the world of hemp was just going along like a steam engine, going along so good and so fast, and things were so exciting, and I was on the phone literally all day, either talking to producers or farmers or just exciting times, and it just stopped dead. And it's just starting again now. Things are happening, and it's starting to become exciting again, as it's almost like, remember the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz, when they kind of started coming out from under the rocks as the Wicked Witch left. And that's finally starting to happen a little bit. A couple of great stories for you today. The first one, just want to mention a little bit. For last year, for 2020, they now have a compilation of acres and licenses. And it was interesting. Farmers did not plant as much in 2020. Actually, it went back 27% in acreage, about 375,000 acres in the United States. That back from 511,000 in 2019. So, everybody kind of stepped back. Of course, we entered the game that year. That was our first year, and an exciting year for us because as far as the field itself, we could do no wrong. We planted directly into the soil. We planted from growing inside, starting them inside, putting them out when they were about that tall. And, it was a wonderful time in the field. And we were able to harvest under the legal limit. And then, of course, things started happening as we were trying to get them dried. And we did a lot of learning right then. We did a lot of real fast learning. But what an interesting time it was. For 2020 record, 20,000 licenses. That was up from 17,000 licenses in 2019. But of course, that doesn't relate to acreages because they were changing the way you had to get licensed. The year before you could have one license and maybe it was for a couple of different plots. And then in last year, you had to have a license on every individual plot, as we do this year. So you can't relate one with the other. But it was interesting. The big numbers to consider was that 19 had 511,000 acres, 20, 375,000 acres. And it will be interesting to see, what's going to happen. Nielsen, of course, they're the TV rating company, but they do all sorts of predictions and rating. And here's the numbers you need to know if you're thinking about getting in the hemp business or staying in the hemp business. Nielsen projects that 2020 hemp sales of 1.9 billion are still going to balloon to 6.9 billion by 2025. So a threefold increase in sales in 5 years. That's some big numbers, and that's our consideration as we are staying in this industry, and we are confident that this industry is going to have a good market and a good payback. So those are the numbers that are driving today's news story significantly. And even though we took this bump because of what happened in the world for, March of 2020, and is still with us. We are going to come out of this. Yesterday, the CDC changed the game to the fact that everyone over 65 now qualifies for getting their shot. That's my first thing to do the minute that I am off the program today, is to arrange to get my first shot. So in 3 weeks, I can get my second shot. And then I feel that I can get back out into the world a little bit and start getting around. I want to get down to Montgomery and see that big factory that is taking stalks and turning them into other things. Big story for today. Can you imagine having 500 acres of hemp and having the county come in, and not only the county, but this is weird, the Department of Fish and Wildlife came in and just destroyed it. Didn't surround it and put tape around it and say, we're going to destroy it, you better get to the court and make a case for why we shouldn't. They just came in and destroyed it and said that it was THC, that it was marijuana. And it was hemp. And not only are you a regular hemp farmer, but you qualify as somebody who isn't under the 0.3, but who in California has a special license to be 1%. This is a really interesting case because the news story, as it came out in the news overnight, was just that he was a hemp farmer. But if you go and read the actual lawsuit, and you got to get really deep and dig into it, this gentleman that is now suing Kern County, California for $1 billion, and that's like 500 acres against $1 billion, comes out to $2 million an acre. And of course, I don't think there's any hemp farmer anywhere that thinks his hemp is worth $2 million an acre. But here's where the twist is, and I find this really interesting. We've all heard about Charlotte's Web and how Charlotte was the little girl who sadly died in the spring of 2020 of COVID. But Trent Jones, who owns the company Apotheo, is the managing partner of that, has spent his career because he lost a daughter to an unusual medical condition called Dravet syndrome. And he got a call from a mother seeking help for her son with this same condition, and that turned his life into hemp. Her son's name was Noah. And so he has developed a strain of hemp called Noah's strain. And with that, they have improved the life of Noah and patients all over the world. This is not his one field. He's from Indiana, actually. Out in California, he's got several places, one with 100 acres, one with 4 acres. He's got this special license from California it's called an EARI, ARI maybe. I'll give you what it means here as I get down in the thing a little farther. And that gives him the opportunity to have THC readings up to 1% as it's being grown and developed. They take it out later. So he was completely legal within his license. He did not break the law in any way, but the powers that be in Kern County just went out there and, according to the lawsuit, recklessly and haphazardly destroyed 500 acres of these plants. And of course, they had all been carefully being tracked for genetics and phenotypes to try and bring this strain forward even more, because they were absolutely trying to develop this plant further to go against this particular disease, of which this is what he had an agreement with the government to do. So you can see this is really not just a basic farmer who crossed the THC line. This was a big agreement between this farmer and a specific medical condition and everything, and somehow this fell apart in here. And so the lawsuit, if you read it, it's all complicated legalese and everything. And it's all explaining that, what THC is and what cannabis is and what this hemp is that he was growing. And it talks about his specific license for this strain. And as long as it's under 1%, not the 0.3%, ARI is established Agriculture Research Institute, licensed November 2016. California voters passed Proposition 64, which allowed for this EARI and others, not just his. They are specifically permitted to grow and possess plants that contain more than 0.3. The California Health and Safety Code states that they shall be permitted to cultivate and process industrial hemp with laboratory test reports that indicate a percentage content greater than that if that cultivation or possession contributes to the development of types of industrial hemp that will comply later on. He was doing everything absolutely legal, and yet here we are. So now somebody screwed up big time. Obviously, the state or the county doesn't want to pay off on this, and this is where it is. Now, what happened overnight or yesterday is that a judge has put the lawsuit on hold. What that might mean, we don't know. This is some news that we have to carefully watch, because what if other states create these EARIs and farmers can get involved in it? Now, maybe a fault here is that was that guy not communicating well with his county? One of the things we did here is we made, although being a fourth generation farmer here, of course, we know the county folks pretty well here, and they know us. And, we have a history of following the laws very carefully anyway, and have always supported the county establishment. So, pretty well known. They have supported us in some criminal activity that has gone on here. So we've worked back and forth. And the minute that I got my license, I called them up and I said, guys, you are welcome to come here anytime. Give me a heads up so that I'd like to, be dressed when you show up. But and then when we got a testing machine, we invited the DEA agents of a multi-county area here to come. We shut our cameras off and stuff so that because they want to remain faceless. And we respect that, because the work that they do, I think, is good in the county. I wish we could stop this whole war on drugs, but that's a different political perspective. They're in the game now, and we respect that. And we had a good session with them here. And now, of course, the machine we have is so much more sophisticated. It's time to get them back again. But that's a different story. So this is going on out in California. How would you feel if you had this? I don't know if it's $1 billion lawsuit, but certainly it's hundreds of millions of dollars. And all of this guy's product, all of these genomes that he was raising are, destroyed. He's got to start over again with some mother plants that, of course, he has at these other locations. But to destroy all of this without any, validation that they were doing what was right is certainly a sad thing, if not a monetary charge to the county. And it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. So that's our Have You Heard for today, this Wednesday, the 13th of January 2021. Tomorrow we are celebrating, my dad has passed on, of course, 11 years ago, but we will be celebrating his 106th birthday tomorrow. He would be 106 years old. And he was the third generation here on this farm. I'm the fourth, and happy that my son, who is 33, is the fifth. And perhaps someday there will be a sixth. I wish you all a good day, last nice day of this year, because they say a cold Arctic blast is coming, and so it will not be 40 again for a long, long time. Get out and enjoy the weather, and we will see you all here tomorrow for another edition of